of this meeting will be pleasing in your eyesight, and that everything that we say and do will be according to your will for our lives, for this community, for this parish, for this state, and for this country as a whole. Dear God, before we go, we just
Never been here before. We've never had these kind of TV screens in front of us, and these things are set up to control the meetings and to make sure and automatically record all the votes and the activities of the council. Since it is the first night, there's probably going to be a few waits at some time for things to happen, and we're working through that. So keep that in mind whenever things are going. We're going to try and keep them moving as quickly as possible. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Dean? Here. Mr. Fitzgerald? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mr. Lorino? Here. Mr. Toledano? Present. Ms. Blanchard? Present. Mr. Stefanczyk?
Here.
Mr. Tanner? Here. Mr. Groby? Here. Mr. Canulet? Here. Mr. Belisario? Here. Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Bender? Here. Mr. Smith? Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Normally, we would have had a public hearing tonight, but since the parish has decided not to roll forward any millages, we don't have to have the public hearing. So we're going directly to the resolutions that are impacted. And the first one is resolution number C 4837. See, I knew it would be a mistake made already. I'm going to ask David Fitzgerald to go out in front of the podium, and Mr. Hand will issue him the oath of office. We do want him to vote tonight. I guess if his wife and family want to join him at the podium. There we go.
Raise your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible. I, David Fitzgerald, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Louisiana,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Louisiana.
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of St. Tammany Parish Council, District 2,
as a member of the St. Tammany Parish Council, District 2,
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Now you can vote, David. The next item on the agenda was Resolution C 4837, a resolution establishing adjusted millage rates for the year 2017. Do I hear a motion to? No. You guys just failed the test. You got to push your button. Where's my, where's the, Motion by Gene Bellisario, seconded by Jerry Bender. What's going on?
Oh,
See if that happens.
first failure. Hold on one sec. I know what we made changes and didn't reboot the system. Do me a favor.
Do we have to do that?
Yes.
We're gonna have to
We
reboot
made
it.
changes during the test and forgot to turn the system back on.
So we have to reboot. I'm going to go through these two resolutions, and then we're going to have before we get into the presentations, we've been working on this all day, and apparently we didn't reboot the system after a lot of changes were made. So they've cut the system off right now. We're going to continue to go. Mr. Bellisario made the motion. Mr. Bender seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to ask by a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. Resolution number C4838, a resolution establishing a parcel fee for the year 2017. I hear a motion. Motion by Mr. Bellisario, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. I'm going ahead with, is it back up and running now?
Not yet. Just
Not
go
yet.
ahead, Doug.
We're going with the presentations. Parish President, presentation to St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month.
Hit the mic.
Hold on a second. Got it.
Ready? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it is a privilege for me to be able to honor our Employee of the Month. And whereas Truman Tripp Sharp III has been a construction manager in the engineering division of the Department of Public Works since January 2015. And whereas he takes great pride in his work, is thorough and detailed oriented, and is exceptional in his ability to communicate and coordinate with coworkers and outside entities. And whereas he is a strong, experienced project manager, and after being assigned the existing St. Tammany Advanced Campus project, he was able to quickly familiarize himself with the nuances of the project and came to play a critical role in advancing the project through the current process. And whereas Tripp Sharp is an overall outstanding and exemplary employee, we are proud and fortunate to have him on our team and thank him for his service to St. Tammany Parish. So now, therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as Parish President of St. Tammany, do hereby recognize the hard work and the accomplishments of Truman Tripp Sharp III as our Employee of the Month for July. And I encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank him for his contributions and his commitment to our parish. Thank you, Tripp, for all you do. Thank you very much, Tripp. I appreciate all your work. Mr. Chairman, if I could have just one more minute for another announcement. We've got some great news this past week when we found out that St. Tammany Trace is in the running for the Rails to Trails Conservancy prestigious National Hall of Fame Award. We're competing with two other trails. It is the Colorado Rio Grande Trail and the Nevada Historic Railroad Trail. So we are very proud that we were selected to be in the running with those two. It's an honor to have this nomination. It's wonderful that we are recognized, the trail is recognized for how great it truly is, and the ridership of that trail has been phenomenal, as you all know. So I will urge you all to please go to the website and vote, because everybody can vote. And Trilby says you can vote more than once. She said she did it 5 or 6 times. So please go to rails2trails.org, and it leads you right through the vote, and it takes just about 2 minutes. But please vote, because we really do want this award, because I think the Trace certainly deserves it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A few months ago, we lost a council person and have his replacement sitting here tonight. Dennis Sharp was really a quiet guy, one of the quietest on the council, but he managed to get things done. And he did it for his constituents. He did things for the parish, and we certainly are going to miss him. And Dennis was just one of those guys that when he stood up here, he didn't say very much, but when he did, everybody listened to him. And I think we're really going to miss him, but David, we're going to welcome you in. I know you're a very close friend of his, and I think you understand the loss. But I would like to bring his wife Lisa up here tonight and present to her Dennis's picture that hung on the wall over there, and his nameplate for the ones that sit up here.
Steve.
Lisa.
His daughters are in out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to recognize his daughters, Lainey and Whitney.
Oh, well, come on up here. I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
That's okay.
So you want to say something?
Might I say one? So I'll promise I'll be quick.
We'll get the picture.
When Dennis and I first met about 17 or 18 years ago, one of the things he said his dream was to become an English professor at the college level, and he said he kind of regretted that he didn't ever finish his doctorate degree. And as the years went by, he always kind of kept that thought, I wish I was an English professor, I wish I was an English professor. Well, time went on, and he ended up retiring from the school board. And I said, you can still get that doctorate. And he says, nah, I don't think I need it anymore. And he felt a little lost at first when he retired, wasn't quite sure what to do, got used to farm boy chores and all that, and he loved it. And then the council seat became available. And he said, what do you think? And I said, do you want it? And he said, sure. I said, let's go. And so I walked the streets with him for weeks and helped him with the flyers, and he ended up becoming councilman. And when he first started, that first election time, and he walked the streets, he was scared to death. He said, you know, I've never had to promote myself before. What do I say? I said, you walk up, you shake your hand, you say hello, you tell them how much you love Covington, and it'll all come, and it did. And the more he walked the streets and the more he talked to the people of his district, the more he loved it and the happier he was. And as time went on, he went ahead and he was reelected. And then when he became ill, I know one of the projects that he said he regretted, really no regrets in his life ever, he said he really wished he could have seen the end of the fairgrounds being completed. But the week before he died, we had a little talk, and he said, you know, sometimes we think we want things, and we don't get them, and we don't understand why. And he said, I don't have any dreams anymore. He says, I have mine. I've been a councilman, and I love Covington and the surrounding areas, and I've been living my dream, and I just didn't realize it. And he says, but I want everybody to know. So thank to all of you who helped make his dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you. On with the presentations. Presentation by Stop St. Tammany, Outreach for the Prevention of Suicide. Gene, you want to introduce the people, or Marty, Dean, somebody?
Myself and Marty Dean have worked with her for several years on different issues and that, and she had approached Marty and I to speak tonight, so I'll turn the mic over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belisario, and thank you, Mr. Dean. And thank you to all of you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to educate all of you a little bit about STOPS, which is St. Tammany Outreach for the Prevention of Suicide, and the impact that it has on our community. 529, that's a pretty big number. It's slightly lower than the entire United States Congress. 529 is the number of people who have lost their lives to suicide since STOPS was incepted in 2001. It's a pretty high number. We are probably, when STOPS was formed, we were the #1 parish for suicides. Now I would say we rank in the 64 parishes, maybe around somewhere between 5 and 8. It's hard to determine exactly. But I just wanted to make y'all aware of the mission of STOPS, which I'm going to read it. The mission of STOPS is to reduce the incidence of suicide and its devastating aftermath in our community. By fostering prevention, intervention, and post-vention resources, we seek to create a community safety net for individuals and families in crisis. So our mission is threefold. We have prevention. That's our first big thing. We do 2 prevention education trainings. One of them is called Safe Talk. It's suicide alertness for everyone. It teaches the tell, ask, listen, and keep safe theory. And it's about 2.5 hours. And our second training is called the Assist. It's the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. This is a much more intensive training. It's a full 2-day training. And anybody is eligible to take our trainings. We train a lot of school counselors, youth ministers. We train law enforcement. We trained the 4 sheriff's deputies who are going out on the mental health calls now. So we train a wide variety of people, but it can also be a mom who's concerned about her son. So we do train a wide variety of people with our prevention education trainings. And they are through an entity called Living Works, which is an international company out of Canada. It's a very evidence-based, theory-driven training. So that's the first thing that we do for our mission. The second thing is the LOST team. It's something we are very proud of. We were the second LOST team in the United States. The LOST team is local outreach to suicide survivors. So we have people who are trained to go out whenever there is a suicide. Every time there's a suicide in the parish, we get notified by the coroner's office. 2 members of our LOST team go out to the scene immediately. They present the families with one of these. It's a suicide survivors packet. It teaches people how to take care of themselves because they need to do that after they are a survivor of suicide. If there's any kind of cleanup that needs to be done, there's information about that in here as well. There is also information about our third thing that we do, which is our Survivors of Suicide Support Group. Our Survivors of Suicide Support Group meets twice a month. Our leader of our support group lost her daughter to suicide in 2012. And if you have lost a loved one to suicide, you are automatically at risk yourself. So it is so vitally important for us to take care of those who are left behind, and that is also a big part of STOP's mission. So I wanted to share that with you and also let you know that we are a member of the Suicide Prevention Youth Focus Group with the school board, which is a fabulous group that has come together a few years ago to help brainstorm about what we can do about suicides as far as the school community is concerned, and they have made leaps and bounds, and I am so proud to be sitting on that committee. And we also are on the Commission of Families. We were on the Behavioral Health Task Force. We're very involved in the community, and the matter of the fact is everybody knows somebody who's been affected by suicide. So it's just vital that our organization go on, and I just wanted to share with you guys. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Just a minute. Didn't do it. Mr. Bender?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, thank you for the presentation. This is a subject that I know is very important to me, and I'm sure to all council members and everybody in the audience. I just have a quick question, and it's only for my information. When you said that we're like 7 to 9 ranking in the different parishes, is that in total suicides or per capita?
Per capita.
Per capita. So we're in 7 or 8 factoring in our population versus smaller parishes or larger
Yes.
parishes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And the reason there can't be an exact number is some of the parishes that have a very, very, very small population, I don't think they're obligated to report the suicides because of privacy issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Gene? You're good? Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next presentation is a presentation of Project Angel. Ms. O'Brien?
Good evening, everybody. You know, several years ago, Pastor Rick Warren wrote the book, The Purpose-Driven Life, and chapter 1, sentence 1 says, "It's not about you." And I couldn't help but think about that book and that sentence when I heard Chief Tim Lentz presenting at the breakfast for the Leadership St. Tammany Alumni Association. And I thought about it. He and all the people who work with this organization have done so much. And I think it's important to recognize his work and also talk about it again, just in case people are not aware of what we have available in this community. And we like to congratulate him for a whole lifetime. His adult life has been spent in public service. He started in law enforcement at the young age of 20. He worked for the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office, and he worked there 30 years. Now, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time. He's got quite a resume. I want him to spend more time talking about this program. But after retiring with 30 years, he then later became the chief of police in Covington, which is his hometown. Now, in May of 2016, he announced the launch of Operation Angel to address the opioid problem facing St. Tammany Parish. And he's going to explain why he did it and the details of it in a few minutes. But this was so critically important and so successful, he actually earned an invitation from President Obama's director of the National Drug Control Police to visit him and some senators in Washington, D.C. So they've been very successful, and they've made a big difference in our community. You know, we'll never know just how much this has meant to so many people. He's made a difference in people's lives and their families. And I want to remind everybody that we don't know when one of our neighbors or one of our friends or one of our family members is going to need this service. Tim, I think you're just a blessing to the community. I am so proud of my leadership brother. So with that, let me present this to you. St. Tammany Parish Government would like to recognize Police Chief Tim Lentz for his many years of public service. Through Operation Angel, he has made a significant difference in the lives of people in St. Tammany Parish and our region. We applaud his vision, determination, and heart for serving the people of our community. Thank you so much.
Well,
Council Lady O'Brien, thank you for the recognition. It's humbling to receive this, and I receive it on behalf of the men and women of law enforcement across St. Tammany Parish that's participating in this program. We can sit here and talk about numbers, but I think until you hear the human side of the problem facing our parish, you really don't get a good understanding. So if you'll indulge me for like 2 minutes, I'm going to play you an actual 911 call that came into my police department.
Hello? Hello? 911, where's the emergency? Hi, 518 South Jefferson, apartment 606. My husband is overdosing right now. I need an answer. Okay, stay on the line. We're getting some help on the way, okay? Holy shit. What is he taking? What is he overdosing on? I think this is heroin. Ma'am, stay on the line, okay? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What apartment number are you in? 606. Have an emergency? Yes, I need an ambulance right now. Okay, ma'am, let 911 give me the address. It's 518 South Jefferson Street. 518 South Jefferson Street in Covington. Okay. You say you're in apartment number 606, ma'am? Yes. Okay. 16th Avenue. Okay, thank you. Ma'am, what's going on? Oh my God, he's just overdosed. Huh? He's just overdosed. What did he overdose on? Heroin. Okay, listen, we have an ambulance on the way. Where is he at? He's on the floor. Okay. What is your name? My name's Brittany. Brittany, listen, I need you to calm down and listen. Okay, what do I need to do? He's on his side. Okay. What else can I do? Listen to me, okay? Is he breathing right now? I can't hear you, ma'am. What? Is he breathing? Yes, he's like breathing. He's just, I think he choked a little bit on his tobacco, like his dip. He puts it in his, you know. All right, are you able to wipe his mouth? Don't stick your fingers in there. Just wipe his mouth off, okay? Make sure he's on his side right now. Okay. Oh, my God. You're doing good. I just need you to stay on the line with me. Where is the needle? Did he use a needle to do this? Well, I don't know. Where is that? Okay, I'm just worried because you're a baby crying in the background. Jesse! Listen to me, Brittany. You need to stay focused, okay? Okay, I can't really wipe well, okay? Out. Okay, listen, we need to make sure your baby is in a safe place right now. Oh, my God. How old is he? He's 29. Okay, is he still breathing? Oh, my God. Hold on. No. Okay, not. All right, listen.
This goes on. Long story short, EMTs get there. They take Jesse to the hospital. They pop him with some Narcan, and he survives. This was in 2015. And I was part of a police culture at that time. Officers went to the hospital. When they discharged Jesse, they arrested him and put him in jail. They went back to the house, arrested Brittany, put her in jail as well. Called Child Protective Services and had their kids taken away from them. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this recording, reading the report, and I'm asking myself, what in the hell did we accomplish? These people are sick. They have a disease. Jail's not the place for them. You may be surprised to know last year we had 5 homicides here in St. Tammany Parish. We had over 50 people die from drug overdoses. It's an epidemic spreading across this country. So with the help of your parish president and Jan Robert, we put our heads together trying to figure out how can we address this problem. Our court system has a wonderful, wonderful set of specialty courts: behavioral health court, drug court, family court, all these different courts. But to get into those courts, you have to be arrested. If I have kidney disease, you don't have to arrest me for me to get treatment. I can go to my doctor. Why can't these people? So doing our research, we found a model program out of Gloucester, Massachusetts called Operation Angel. It was a novel idea to where now the philosophy of law enforcement, if you're suffering from an addiction, you can walk into that law enforcement agency and say, I need help. And a police officer will help facilitate your road to recovery. So we adopted that model here in St. Tammany Parish, and our parish president and many others stood with me at a podium May 2nd of 2016, announcing we were going to change the way we do business. We were going to give these people that were sick help instead of handcuffs, and we launched Operation Angel. through a partnership with the New Orleans Mission. And then after we did that, some other private providers decided to step up and help as well. And you may not realize, in 1 year, 132 people walked into a law enforcement agency in St. Tammany Parish and said, I'm an addict and I need help. And they got it. That's 132 people that didn't go to jail. 132 people, at least for one night, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year, weren't sticking needles in their arms, weren't breaking into our cars, and they had a chance at a new life. And we've had successes. We've had people complete the program that are clean, healthy, productive citizens of our community. So why not try something different? Why not try a new approach and give these people the help they so desperately need? Thank you again, Maureen, for the opportunity. My friends, good to see you again. Parish President Brister, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We're now to the consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. Any down there, Mr. Dean, do you have anything to pull? Mr. Fitzgerald, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Loreno. That's it. Okay. Resolution number C4831. Okay. Mr. Toledano. Ms. Blankard. No. Mr. Tanner. No, and Mr. Groby. No, sir. Mr. Canulet. No. Mr. Belisario. Thank you. Anything else? Ms. O'Brien, do you have anything? No, sir. Mr. Bender? No, sir. Mr. Smith? Staff have anything to pull? Okay. We're going to vote on the consent calendar. Oh, I need a motion to approve the consent calendar. Motion by Mr. Canulet, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Please vote. Everybody's voted?
Motion passes with 14 yeas, no one absent.
Thank you. Go to resolution number 1, a resolution requesting that all parish fire districts issue recommendations to parish council regarding consolidation services. Mr. Loreno. Wait a minute, I'm not on the right one. There we go. Mr. Loreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Before we get started, I'd like to say a couple of things. There's no one on this council or in St. Tammany Parish that supports the fire districts, the police, the EMS, the teachers, everyone than myself. No one. I do everything I possibly can for Fire District 2 and 4, and I'll always continue that. That's the way it should be. But, Mr. Chairman, I asked this to be put on the agenda because in looking at things and supporting things, no matter how much you support something, that doesn't mean you can't ask a question. A question is a question. And the question sometime when you have an answer comes out to help and does the best thing possible for everyone. But nobody knows that, and that possibility is not there if there's not a discussion about it. So this resolution that I put on here today was strictly for one thing and one thing only, where I stand 100%. on expenses. I come from a world that's similar to the same thing that we have here, 14 districts, 3 pilot groups. So I know those things, and I know the questions that arise from it. But I also know that you can do things and show people that everything is moving in the correct direction. When you don't do that, sometimes perception pops its ugly head up, and then you have to deal with it. So why I put this on there is because I looked at expenses. And I could go to Fire District 2 and Fire District 4 and say, show me your expenses. Why don't you all try to do things together to save some money, if it's possible, if it's possible. But then what would happen is there's 13 districts, and they say, why are you doing it in 2 and 4? So that's why I'm sitting here right now, and as I look out, I see all the districts here, and that's perfect. That's exactly why I'm sitting here. Because I want you to understand that I support you 1,000%, each and every one of you. But I also represent the people in St. Tammany Parish. And my question is very simple. I don't want services cut. I don't want anything cut. What I would like is if you all could look at expenses that you have in common because you're fire districts with each a different territory and a different expertise in that. So not everyone will be the same. But look where you are and see if there's anything that could possibly come back and say, hey, we might be able to do this, and it might be able to help. And St. Tammany Council, if you can help us, it will help everyone. I'm sitting here knowing we can't force you, and I'm not trying to force you to do anything. All I'm doing is responding to questions that I have in my district, and every time I have them, I say the fire districts, the police, and everybody do a fantastic job. But that doesn't prevent us from sitting down and talking about an issue, if there's an issue. If there's no issue, that's even better. I'd love to sit here. I'd love to sit here tomorrow and say, Chief Kaufman and I met, and we looked at every expense, and there's nothing we can do. And I'd say thank you. But I haven't had that opportunity yet. But that's what I'm looking for. And that's the only thing I'm looking for. And so I just wanted to make that clear, Mr. Chairman, and my thoughts on it. As I said, I know we can't do anything. What I would like to have happen is if the fire chiefs can get together and look at it and come back to us in a 6 or 8 months period of time and say, hey, look, we looked at something, here's what we found, thank you, and we can move on. If not, that's fine too. I've said what I've had to say, and I'm going to say it again. I support all the districts, and just because I'm speaking about it does not mean I do not support it. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, there was nobody filled out a card to speak on this. And I know with all of the people in the room, they're represented at least by Chief Kaufman from Slidell. And I'm going to give him the 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can with the 3 minutes. Chad, would you please hand out this map? Appreciate all your words, Councilman Loreno. And we did meet in February with Councilman Loreno and Toledano. I think I emailed the entire council on Monday the PowerPoint presentation that was sent to both of those individuals that addresses exactly what the resolution is asking questions about. In 2013, we met with North Shore Business Council representatives Larry Race and Bruce Weiner. We asked them for their feedback. We brought 4 of the parish council members, Jake Groby, Maureen O'Brien, Gene Belisario, and Richard Tanner, to one of our association meetings. We also did the presentation and asked for feedback. We revised that document. We have a 3-point objective that addresses functional consolidation. With that being said, I want to say on behalf of the Chiefs Association, I'm representing all the fire departments here in St. Tammany Parish. I'm currently the president, serving the second term. Addressing the Hartman study, which the resolution does, the current resolution of 2013 James Hartman Consolidation Study, which was discussed in 2013, we discussed it at a meeting with parish council members right here at Coop Drive. Several responses were given in detailed form in opposition to the study, with numerous discrepancies in the report, including inaccurate information regarding collected millages. James Hartman stated in the report, and I will quote, "Mention must and will be made concerning political influences that have impacted and continue to affect the fire service in the parish." He further states, "We have clearly found, however, that these influences are both evident and in some cases significant. This is the third time, Councilman Loreno, that we have been approached for a consolidation study by an elected official." The St. Tammany Fire Chiefs Association members, we did a self-assessment to create the PowerPoint presentation. We have brought people in from the community to participate in the data collected. The PowerPoint presentation was the feedback that we got from the meetings. One of the items I want to address is a forced millage distribution. And we did talk about some of these things in our meeting. I'm not so sure the message was received. Just as an example, in the map that was distributed, our parish has a large footprint. Districts 1 and 4 are 73% of the population and vote. The rest of the parish, 3/4, is all your less populated areas. And a forced consolidation of the 450 full-time employees, 108 part-time, and 82 volunteers would be detrimental to the taxpayers in this parish. Yes, and if we put a salary next to those volunteers, it would be over $5 million, 37 additional mills to fund that operation. And thank Tim Lentz for being here tonight, because if we had a consolidated effort on the police side, we wouldn't have Tim Lentz in this parish possibly. Our smaller fire districts have worked diligently to provide adequate fire protection and are meeting the needs of their respective districts based on their limited funding and tax base. We are providing essential services in this parish that everyone enjoys. With the revenues and resources diluted in the lower populated areas, in some cases, the PIL ratings will be decreased. In most cases, it will cost the taxpayers more money in homeowners' insurances and in premiums. Fire districts are the only taxing bodies in this parish that can give back to the taxpayers by providing more efficient fire services while giving them a break on their homeowners' insurance. If we want to move forward on a study, and we're willing to speak and meet with anyone in detail, this Chiefs Association is in support of an Inspector General that would come in and do a proactive, essential, and effectiveness investigation and oversight of not only the fire department's government. The fire departments will volunteer to go first. Our number one goal is to serve our citizens first and put integrity back in government. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So you made the motion? Second? You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to repeat myself so it's heard. When I spoke to Mr. Hand and asked him to prepare this resolution, I expressed expenses. Now, whether or not he had to list the whole thing, I don't know. But when I spoke with him, I said expenses, and we talked about it. I never talked to him about consolidation or anything else. I have not spoken to anybody about it. It's been brought up, and you brought it up, Chief, so I'll respond to it. It has been brought up, but that's not the issue. The issue is what I just said. If there's expenses out there that can be put together and save people money and get it done and give something else to taxpayers, whether it's a raise or anything, I'm 100% for it. I did not, and I said it before. You brought the consolidation issue to this table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorino. Next person is Mr. Canulet.
Thank you. Chris, can you come to the podium, please? I have a question first. I'm not sure if everyone understands what Mike is trying to do, but it sounds like what he's trying to do is get all y'all's expenses on board. So, for example, as a pool, if y'all were to purchase janitorial products, you would probably, don't laugh, y'all need them. You would get a better price as a whole ordering it by a group than individually districts. And we've talked about this in the past before. I would love for y'all to have the same hookups. I don't know if y'all do. I don't know if y'all have the same equipment, fire hoses, SCBA's. It would be a big plus when you have the mutual aid agreements if you can hook up and you don't have to use adapters. Be much easier. You can share equipment, things like that. So can you kind of tell me where y'all are at on that so far? Absolutely, and we do share resources. We use the same public bid law process. I reviewed the entire parish council's most recent update of the policy. All of our fire departments are buying all the large equipment on state contract. We use the public bid law. We do a quote process, and we do have equipment that is adaptable for all of our departments to use. We have used functional consolidation over the last 10 years to better serve the citizens in this parish by utilizing our different training facilities in District 1 in Slidell and in Mandeville District 4, so that the smaller districts don't have to have those expenses. The janitorial supplies, and I apologize for the comments, that is just so small compared to what we talk about in our budgets. You know, I operate an $18 million budget, run an internationally accredited fire department, the only one in the state of Louisiana, and we bring best practices as the largest fire department in this parish. We share those practices with all the departments in this parish. So we're getting some of the results of hard work. This association meets twice a month. We are more aligned to provide an efficient and effective fire protection service in this parish than it's ever had. And before it gets dismantled and we do a disservice to our citizens, you know, we're willing to sit at the table and meet with anyone and discuss in detail all of our budgets, any of the things that anybody has concern about. That's the transparency piece that we're presenting tonight. You know, but it appears to continue to come up, and I say, why don't we meet instead of making assumptions that somebody's actually doing something wrong or inefficient. Most people don't know what we do today. So we did talk about us coming into the council and giving an update on what the association has accomplished. I stay in contact with the parish president on any of the sensitive issues. We address any internal issues for the fire service in St. Tammany Parish, and there is no fee or a salary paid to this association. We have proactively put this together ourselves because our goal years ago was we wanted to be the ones to put the transparency, put the plan out there before somebody dictated what it would look like, because that's what the past reports dictate when you read them. I read that study again today, Councilman Loreno, so I am a little upset tonight, and I apologize, but you know, I've been here 29 years. I know you've been on the council less than 2 years, right? And I want to sit down and educate. We got some smart people in the fire service, and when I look at the small districts, what they're doing with less to serve their people, volunteers that come out not being paid today, is just unbelievable. You know, fire departments are resorting to contract employees. We don't even support that in civil service, but today financially they have to. And that's why I said that just the basic numbers don't make sense if we were to consolidate and think we're going to do better for our taxpayers today. We've already calculated, and I'll be glad to sit down with anyone and talk about those details. We have research healthcare. You know, and when we talk about minimum wage, some firefighters start at minimum wage, and we have some that start as high as $10.25 an hour. If we standardize a scale in this parish, we couldn't pay for it today as the service is being provided in this parish. So we are open for discussion and education. It's all about education, and this organization has been proactive. We feel
Chief, I
we are
need
a
to
major
have-
part of the
I
parish.
need to have you wrap it up
Okay.
again.
Councilman Canulette, I hope I answered some of your questions. We address many functional consolidation savings for our taxpayers. I'll be glad to give you the details.
Thank you. Mr. Bellis, are you done, Gene?
No, I'm just gonna tell you that,
Chris?
I could have kept talking. We are the fastest growing parish, and we keeping up with the growth.
I can do it without the mic, so.
We love this parish, and we think we're a major part of
You
the
know,
quality of life.
Right. Well, me and you have been together in this since.
We almost
since
married.
day one. Yeah, I know. No, it's wrong. And we haven't always agreed with each other on things, but we've always worked through them. I don't think Mike is trying to consolidate y'all with this. He just wants to make sure that we're getting the most money for our buck. And I believe right now, at this point, we're not ready for the fire departments to be consolidated, to be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion, right now. We can't even get everyone in the 911 room right now. So when we get everybody in that room where the head communications is, then I think maybe we can start discussing that. But right now, I think he just means he's just trying to help y'all and save money in any way, shape he can.
I just don't know if we misspending any yet, and that was the point.
I don't think he meant to say y'all were misspending it.
I'd like to meet first and talk about it.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Bender.
Bellisario.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bellisario, got the wrong one.
Thank you.
Gotta just
Thank
read
you.
this. Here you-
Supposed to speak first or me?
No, Bellisario.
Gene first.
Sorry.
I'm not hitting done. Mr. Chair, one of the things that came across on both sides of this is the word communications. I pay attention to Fire District 1 because it encompasses almost my entire district. One of the things that we don't have is they have these meetings. I want to know who from parish government or the council attends those meetings so that we could then have the information on things that they're doing. I think the answer is, from the council side, nobody. If there's someone from the administration, that's good. We have a small work group committee that gets involved with the ambulance service. I think we need to look at forming a small group of 2 or 3 council members to regularly attend their meetings so we can bring information back so there's a line of communications. Because the fire districts, from all the different groups that I'm dealing with, is the most complex, because you're not just looking at the operations of it, you're looking at the civil service side. I don't have any boards or commissions that has 2 levels to be concerned with. I think what would be beneficial for us and get to where Mike's driving to, because I agree with it, is that we need to have more information to see what they're doing. Because when I talk to either Chad or to Chris, I see the progress they're making, but I don't know if anybody else is doing that. It's just part of what I do, and I think this would be a good idea for us to do so we can open up the lines of communications. I'll stop speaking now, then I'll have Jerry do what he wants to do.
Mr.
Thank you,
Bender.
Gene. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, you want to come up a second?
Can I have 10 this time?
No, if you keep answering the question
was a
too
joke.
long, I'll stop.
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
I asked for 10 minutes this time.
10 minutes, well, I don't get 10 minutes, I mean, you know. Well, I do if I want them. I'm kidding. Mr. Chairman, I'm kidding. He's smiling, that's good news. Okay, Chris, I have been at this a while, and you know that, okay? What I want to say is, because of kind of the way the tone headed for a little while, okay? And it's easy to be defensive, okay? That's easy. It's human nature for any of us. I don't believe that our colleague, Mr. Lorino, is on the offensive. And I ask that our fire people not get on the defensive, okay? I respect all of the work of our fire departments, our police departments, our sheriff's department. I respect the work that our grass cutters do, that the people who clean our ditches do, that the people who make sure that our water systems are clean and you know, keep people from being ill, that our sewer systems work properly. It's part of public service in a variety of sectors. And certainly your fire district is to be commended, as every fire district is, okay? Occasionally, we get involved, and usually, and I think the good news with the fire districts that I want to say is that it's only been very occasional in my past recollection. Now, you and I'm not going to go into this, you and I remember a day when I was on the Slidell City Council when we did need to, I'm talking about the city council, we did need to follow some advice and recommendations that were coming to us. And the outcome has been, and you've been part of that outcome as well as your predecessor, the outcome has been very, very good. We can both agree on that. So I agree with this. I think our involvement should be only as needed, okay? I will say our public hospitals right now, and I think if we can look at this from the standpoint of what Mr. Lorino has put forth here, which in this way, if you look at what's actually occurring with our two public hospitals right now, they are working with a very, very large private concern. And to save money, for example, on purchasing, on that private concern's purchasing power, which is immense compared to them by themselves, okay? But we're not giving away control because I would never support that. I think the other thing, Chief, and I'm going to end up with this, the proof is in the pudding, and it's this. The people, and I can only speak because I'm in your fire district, the people of Fire District 1 have said many, many times that we appreciate the work y'all do, okay? And I, for one, as an elected official, join them in every time that you've asked for the support. So keep up the good work, okay? Consider what's being brought up here as brainstorming, okay? And, you know, let's just go back to work. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I guess I have the 3 minutes. The committee, Parish President Brister, that was created that reviewed the fire boards and commissions in the parish, we participated in that committee. We had a representative from the association, brought good data to the table, and we used that document across the entire parish. One of the first things that needed to be done wasn't the firefighter or the efficiencies, it was getting the boards and commissions educated to be able to function as a board member. I asked y'all, when was the last time you called and reached out and spoke to one of those appointments? I don't need an answer.
I'm going to cut you off
I don't
because
need an answer.
I've got a whole list of people who want to talk here.
I don't get the 3 minutes to
and they want to ask you questions.
All right, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to be able to communicate tonight.
Mr. Groby. Hit your button and you're down in the bottom of the queue. That's what happens. You're on here, but you're behind a couple other people.
We taking
Mr.
the right
Groby
step.
has the floor, so.
I'm sorry.
You're on.
Chief, one of the things I'd like to have your study look at is, and I spoke to you at this, it's not a surprise, I spoke to Chief Seagard last night and the Assistant Chief. I think many in the world out there look at insurance cost, and a small group pays more than a large group. One of the things I would like to add on to Councilman Marino's request is that the hard question be asked, how is it that the larger group of firemen cannot be covered under a uniform policy? I believe that, I know the answer because it's some political subdivisions that may not be legally able to do, but if you have that answer and want to pass it out, I'd appreciate either that here or as part of a definitive answer when you come back to the council. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want, first of all, I was here in 2013 and what have you when we wasted about $40,000 or $50,000 on a study. And we came in and we throwed it on the shelf. And if we're going to do a study, I want the fireman in this parish to do it. I don't want some outside consultant to come in and do it.
Thank you.
And, but I don't think we need to pass a resolution to tell y'all what to do. I think you know what you're doing, and I think y'all are trying to work on that. What I would like to ask you to do is, I don't know if y'all meet monthly or semi-monthly or monthly. If y'all would just send us, a brief synopsis of what you talked about or what you're working on and what have you, we could keep up with what you do. And I happen to represent that 3/4 of the parish that only has 21% of the group. So we got little small districts, and we don't operate like y'all. We can't. But they do a great job. But and y'all can help them, and I know y'all do. I would like for you to do that, but I'm not going to vote for a resolution asking y'all to do anything other than keep us involved, keep us informed of what's going on.
And you have my word tonight that we will continue to assess ourselves to become more efficient each and every day. And we already addressing the health care question, and I have a response, but I'll be glad to send y'all that in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lorino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, looking at the resolution, the way it's written, I can agree with what you're saying, because it does say consolidation. But as I said, and it was also commented on by my colleagues, that I'm looking at expenses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the council to pull this resolution and table it. But I'm also going to look at you right now and say how I feel. I would like the chiefs to look at their expenses and see if there's anything that they can do to save the taxpayers money at no expense of service or jobs or anything, and maybe even help. For instance, I don't like volunteers. I think that lady lost her life, and I'm so ashamed and sorry that that happened, that I believe everybody should be paid when they go out to save somebody's house or life, and they should be paid well. And I don't know how we can do it, but that's something I'm willing to do, because I'm not an enemy of the fire districts. I'm a representative of the people in District 4. So I'm going to pull this, and I'm not going to bring it up again, because I'm right here looking at you and tell you what I hope that the chiefs do. I'm also going to say, I give you my full commitment, and I will meet at any time, and I would love to meet with your group so that we can talk about it and understand it. But I'm also say one other thing. I've only been here 2 years. That is absolutely correct, and you've been here a little longer. But sometime when somebody comes in with a new pair of glasses, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that helps. So I appreciate it, everything you do. I can understand why you're upset. And I mentioned it to Chief Moore. But the good news is we are talking about this subject. And it's good, because now the people know that you do a good job. And you guys need to get that out more.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pull and take off the calendar, please.
Thank you.
Before I begin, before I take that motion, Mr. Belisario, you had something to say. You were on the calendar, so. Okay.
Section, I'll second the motion to remove it, but I would like, if you don't mind, to have Mike and I to talk to Chief Coffin to start going to their meetings and bringing information back. I think that will really open up the channels of communication, because Mike and I are on the same wavelength wavelength. I'm with him because I meet with him 2-3 times a year. I have him come to my community meetings, and he speaks and he puts the information out there. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you. Mr. Bender, did you have anything else you wanted to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I just wanted to say to you, and I want to make sure that I leave here feeling this way, okay? I hope you leave here and all of the people associated with the fire districts leave here feeling this way. I feel very good about the comments that I made, okay? If you wanted to comment, I understand. But I didn't think I said anything that was debatable, okay? What I do want to say is that, as I said earlier, when we were needed years ago, okay, on the subject of board members, that there were problems, okay? And rank and file came to an elected official. And we organized and sat down and looked at those issues and those problems. We acknowledged that there were problems, okay? So there are moments when you like us and you need us. And there are always moments when we need each other, okay? So I say again, as a supporter, okay, we did the right thing back then when we were called upon to act, and it did require our action. This doesn't require our action, okay? I would just say to y'all to continue to do the good work that you do. Remember the people, the citizens who continue, I think, to collectively support our fire districts, okay? And Chief, I'll end with this. If you ever need to speak with me regarding board issues, anything along that line, additional training, whatever way we can help as a parish council, as a councilman, and I think well, I want to say it tonight, I'm certainly willing to do that. You and I speak from time to time when needed. But let's make that clear. If we need to do more with training board members, whether it's in accounting or other issues that maybe not everybody just walks into and knows how to read budget documents to the higher level, especially with a large fire district, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And I'd like to just add I like Councilman Loreno's comment about a new set of glasses. We think exactly what you said, that this association really reformed itself 2 years ago. We did exactly what you're asking, self-imposed. And that's all we want to make the point tonight. We are totally transparent, and we feel we have already done that, and we just have to do a better job getting out, communicating that with our elected officials, our citizens. That was the entire point of creating that PowerPoint. So thank you all so much tonight for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Motion by Mr. Loreno, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any further discussion on this? The motion is to postpone indefinitely.
Yes, sir.
Or remove from the calendar.
Remove.
Remove from the
Motion is to remove from the calendar. So I think we are ready to vote. Please vote with your lights.
Yay. Say yes. Go fix your hair now.
Vote is completed.
Motion passes, no one absent.
Thank you. We're going now to appeals. Oh, wait a minute, number 7. We got number 7. Resolution CS 4839, resolution to authorize the parish president to obtain special counsel for lawsuit filed by Majority Mary, wife of and/or Cameron Matthew Mary, and I believe this was pulled by Mr. Belisario.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You want to put the motion on the floor?
I put the motion on the
Motion by
floor to
Mr.
move.
Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Mr. Belisario?
Yes, I can make, again, the motion to move, because I was expecting someone from the public to come speak on it, like they did at agenda review, and that didn't happen. So let's move on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, motion is to approve, seconded. Anyone else wish to speak? All those, let's please vote by your lights.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, we're going to appeals. Ross Christian appealing the zoning commission approval on February 7, 2017 for major amendments to the PUD of 92.61 acres located north of Interstate 12, west of Holiday Square Boulevard, south of Versailles subdivision, and it's Ward 3, District 5.
Mr. Stefanczyk, if you will. This is an appeal in my district. It's been pending for a few months, but not for lack of diligence on behalf of the developers or the various property owners in interest. Happy to report to everybody tonight that we've reached a consensus in terms of resolving this. However, because the complicated nature of the paperwork that's involved and my insistence that I see it all in writing, I'm going to move to postpone it tonight by telling you that we should be reporting by next meeting that the matter is fully resolved to the satisfaction of both the homeowners and the developers. And I credit both of them for a job well done in working through some very complicated issue and on both sides making major concessions. On that basis, I move to postpone.
Till when?
To next meeting will be more than enough time.
Thank you. Okay. Motion by Mr. Toledano to postpone, seconded by. Hit your button, guys. Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Wait, hold on.
Turn the vote on. We're getting there.
I still have 1 vote. Never mind. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Items 2 or 3 are going to be taken together, and we're going to allow only the time limit for a normal appeal. So, Mr. Moses Swint, representing Marina Bayou, Marina Boshin Boathouse, and Christina Donovan representing Boshin Homeowners Association appealing zoning commission's approval on May 2nd, 2017 to rezone 15.503 acres located on the northwest and end of Marina Boulevard, north of Mako Naka Drive from A6 multifamily residential to A2 suburban district and CR1 community-based facilities district to an A4 single-family residential district, Ward 4, District 4. I have, first of all, let me explain the rules. Recently, we've made the changes to the way that we're going to handle appeals, and you will have 10 minutes per side to present your case. You will have 3 minutes for rebuttal. It will then be turned over to the council for discussion and/or questions. If any member of the council asks one side a question, then at the end you will get 2 more minutes for summary. If no one from the council asks either side a question, there's no additional time to be put on. So I hope both sides understand that, and you've got 10 minutes per side. So if you've got more than one person to talk, you need to have those people ready, and they need to talk. They will not be given more than the 10 minutes total. That's what you get total, 10 minutes per side and 3 minutes per side. Okay, with that, we'll begin. Yes, Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of the Beauchene Homeowners Association and its Board of Directors. I represent the board, and we are here in opposition to the request this evening. The residents of Beauchene have overwhelmingly opposed this project. In fact, there is a petition out there with over 500 signatures. To the best of my knowledge, there has been, other than the petitioner himself, there has been no residents in Beauchene that have appeared in support of this project. So the board and the residents would respectfully request that you overturn the approval by the Zoning Commission and deny the request for the following reasons. First, it's important to note the historical use of this property. This property is part of Marina Beauchene. Beauchene has developed over the last 30 years or more, and the residents of Beauchene have bought in that subdivision with the understanding that the use, the marina and associated uses, would remain. They are now being told that despite that belief for all these years, that it's going to change, that there's going to be a PUD in this area, and there will be 18 common wall townhomes and a string of residential lots. We would respectfully submit to you that there is no compelling reason to change the zoning and the use of the property that has been in place for all these years and that my clients have relied on. In addition, the petitioner describes the property currently as needing to be cleaned up and being unsightly. But it's important for you to know that the people that actually live adjacent to this property prefer the property in its existing condition as opposed to the project that is before you this evening. And that should tell you something. In addition to the historical use, I would also suggest to you that the proposal is inappropriate with regards to the use in its location and the density. Now, you may say 18 townhomes on 15 acres doesn't sound dense. However, you must look closely at what that 15-acre consists of. The vast majority is marshland. In fact, the entire A6 parcel is marshland. The developable property consists of 2 very small slivers of land. And if you have in front of you the staff report, you can look at the aerial and see that we are not dealing with 15 acres. We are dealing with about an acre or 2. And that is all. I've also passed around some pictures that you will see the marshland that I'm talking about. It is exceedingly low. Now, the petitioner continues to frame this case as being a decision between 100 apartments and 40,000 square feet of additional property, or the project that you see. I would submit to you that their vision of what could go there, 100 apartments and 40,000 square feet of additional commercial, is not a viable or realistic vision. I would also point out to you that the threat by the petitioner of what could go there doesn't make his request reasonable or appropriate. Remember that. His request is not appropriate simply because something could happen on the property that might be objectionable. But I would submit to you that that threat is illegitimate. I do not believe that 100 apartments and 40,000 square feet of additional commercial can be built on this property. And I believe that because of what I told you a minute ago. We're not dealing with 15 acres. We're dealing with about an acre or 2. You are not putting 100 apartments in the middle of that marsh. There's a reason that property has not been developed in 30 years. And I do not believe that if you deny this project today, that you will see 100 apartments and 40,000 square feet of additional commercial in that area. It is characterized as a down zoning. Well, you've got CB1, A2, and A6 out there. We're down zoning it to A4 and a PUD. No. There's only one of those zones that's a down zone. That's the A6. Yes, they are taking A6 away. A6 is marsh. So I don't view that as a down zone. The other zones, I would submit to you, is an up zone. It is an up zone. Furthermore, there's correspondence out there, and you'll probably hear tonight, all they need to do is go pull a permit to build those apartments. Well, that's not exactly accurate. First, they got to meet your ordinances, one of which is the no net fill ordinance, and I don't think they can do it. 2, they've got to get a permit from the Corps of Engineers. 3, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. 4, the Department of Environmental Quality. And I would submit to you, they will also have to have an archaeological study done. So they will not be pulling a permit and building those apartments anytime soon. That is a fallacy, and I don't want you to be misled by that. There are a number of other reasons that you should deny this request, but there are a lot of people here that would like to speak, and I don't want to monopolize their time. So I'm going to yield the podium for the remaining 4 minutes so that those individuals will have a moment to talk, and if there's additional time, I'll retake the podium at that moment.
My name is Moses Swint. I'm on the board of directors for the Boathouse Condominium Association. Our members reside directly across from where the development's going to be. And we ask that you reject the zoning approval. Based on one item, the developer did have to submit a packet of information to request the zoning change. In that packet, there is an environmental assessment data form. And on that form, he marked that there were no hazardous materials that needed to be removed for the development. That is not true. He should have marked yes there. There are asbestos pipes in the area. They don't know how much is there. We would ask that you reject it based on that, possibly require a phase 1 environmental study done. So that is something that we would hope you would consider. Also, we want to point out that, and I can give you photographs, our building, the edge of the rooftop, it goes over the street where he's going to develop or proposes development. That area has been hit by trucks before that come back there, and in order to prevent that, it just doesn't seem reasonable that you wouldn't hit that building. You would have to move the street over, and it just doesn't seem reasonable that that's going to happen. So based on those 2 points, we ask that you reject. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Peter Dupuy. I've got a condo at 500 Tchefuncte Oaks, which is directly across from the project being mentioned. We've got 18 units there. I'm the president of Tchefuncte Oaks Homeowners Association. The board met and we voted against this project. Please keep in mind, for safety's sake, we don't have any sidewalks in this area. With the 222 truckloads of fill that they're talking about, that is going to be a dangerous situation. Please vote on our behalf. Thank you.
Just a few more points since I have a few minutes. This is a map of Beauchene as it exists today. And I think it's important for you to understand where this property is in relation to the rest of the development. You see the Tchefuncte River here. Highway 22 is at the bottom of the map. What you see here are all the streets and homes. This is the property. You can't access this property without going through the heart of Beauchene. So I think the position of the residents of Beauchene, based on that, is an important factor for you to consider this evening. I would also point out that the access to this area is via the Marina Gate. That gate is already over capacity. Now, the developer will tell you, well, we'll pay to improve that, which is fine, except there's little to no room for additional improvements to that gate. That is a very real concern to the residents on each and every one of those streets from the gate to this property. Finally, the other point I would make with regards to the location is that this area is outside of the response time for the fire district. That is of real concern to the board of directors of Beauchene. As you put additional residential units outside of that response time, it has the potential for negatively impacting the district rating and the ability to perform the functions by that district. So for these reasons, for the reasons that my colleagues have mentioned, we would respectfully request that you deny the request this evening, that you overturn the decision of the zoning commission, and that you maintained the existing zoning on these parcels. Thank you very much.
I have 48 seconds. Sure.
My mic is on. Peter Dupuy to speak, and I had Paul Marone and Moses Sweat. Okay,
Correct.
those
And
are
I'm
the three.
Christina
Okay?
Donovan.
Okay.
And I come both as Chief Administrative Officer of Beauchene Homeowners Association, and also I am a Beauchene resident. And I just want to make two other clarifications. That area, there were some pictures sent around. They are, the majority of them, 6 of them are of the wetland area, which is the predominant over 10 acres plus of this property, which is 4 parcels. It's referred to by the requester of the zoning change in the development group as just the property, but it's 4 distinct parcels in there with 4 distinct zoning associated with them. Only one, as Paul Marone mentioned, is the multi-unit. It is all entirely in the wetland. But the whole area is prone to flooding. The streets flood. Last year we had 3 or 4 incidents of flooding. All the residents around the perimeter of the marina already moved their vehicles to higher ground, which increases traffic issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the other side, and I'm not sure who's going to be the spokesman for them. I have 3 cards. I have Julie Quinn, Alan Oxford, and Billy Matthews. And I assume you have picked up the people and told them that how much time they have out of the 10 minutes. So we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I want to start by saying I'm here on behalf of the strong recommendation of the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission, with whom we worked very closely for several months and made numerous concessions to make sure that this was in keeping with the master plan of St. Tammany. It's in keeping with downzoning. It's in keeping with preserving 10 acres of green space, which we all know is important to St. Tammany, and it's good for the community and subdivision. We then went before the zoning commission, and overwhelmingly, after a hearty debate like you're going to see tonight, received their approval, 7-2. This is somewhat of a first for me in that I'm coming to ask for a downzoning that I'm finding myself having to defend. My esteemed, I guess, opponent, Mr. Marone, did a great job of saying, well, most of it's marshland and it's not going to be actually developed. So let's just get right to the heart of it. It is over 15 acres total, 10 of which is marshland, so to speak. Let's put that aside. Let's concede for purposes of tonight that that won't be built. I'm not agreeing with that because, like I said at the Planning Commission, Lakeview was built on complete marshland. But let's concede that it won't be built. And by the way, do you know why it hasn't been built? It hasn't been built for 30 years, not because something couldn't be built, but Mr. Haydell, the current owner of Walk Haydell, he's an heir, had no need to develop it. He's at a different point in his life, not that he needs to develop it, but he wants to now. He's owned it for the duration of that time. He did not want to develop it. There's now different opportunities. So let me be clear, it hasn't been developed not because it couldn't. It's because Mr. Haydell just was not on the front of his agenda. The taking away the 10 acres that will be preserved by downzoning this to green space, we've got 5 acres left. 3 of those are commercial, CB2. Today, they can pull a permit to have a school, a pre-K through 8th grade, to have a bar, to have a restaurant, or to have some sort of combination. What was amusing to me was that, quote, and I quote, no one in Beauchene supports this project. Do you know who the 2 developers are? Lifelong residents of Beauchene. And if you think they don't have friends in Beauchene, I would find that hard to believe that someone who's born and raised in Beauchene, whose family home remains in Beauchene, and who one of the developers currently lives in Beauchene, they certainly have friends and they certainly have people who do like and support this project. Whether people want to come out in support publicly is another issue. I also want to address by the way, they have made, this is 2% of units that they would be adding to Beauchene. There are 1,520 units, residential units in Beauchene for a total, if you don't even estimate 2 people per unit, let's say some are single, 2,500 persons, okay? 1,520 units, they're adding 2%, they're adding a total of 44. The development team, who I want to take just a moment and tell you briefly what they are and who they are. This is a first-rate development team. One is a lifelong member of Beauchene, who still his family home owns his family home in Beauchene and is dedicated to this community, owns major businesses and developments in St. Tammany. The other was a national developer featured in Architectural Digest, Better Homes and Gardens, and had Buckhead Developments. And I do have some photos to show you the kind of work and development that he does. You have a first-rate development team living in Beauchene who's dedicated to the community, number one. Number two, they were so concerned about working with their neighbors, which does not seem to be necessarily possible to come to an amicable agreement. They went from 9 single-family homes and 44 townhome units to 22 townhome units to now 18 townhome units. So now they are down to 18 townhome units with the still 9 single-family homes in order to allow now a parking lot that they want to offer to the other boathouse members. They even are going to put in a pool that they've offered people to join, not just the 18 townhomes, that people around the Beauchene can join if they want to pay a fee, et cetera. So this team is a first-class team who does not want to polarize the neighborhood, and we actually believe it would be better for the neighborhood if the neighborhood understood that the current owner wishes to develop this property. The current owner wishes to now develop this property. If you put aside the 10 acres of marshland, if you buy into that argument that that will never be developed, let's just look at the remaining 5 acres, CB2. 3 acres are CB2. That is bars, restaurants, schools, churches, synagogues. That would have a significantly more impact on traffic, on people coming in that don't belong into the neighborhood, et cetera. I heard at the beginning, oh, I need to give my time to the 2 other speakers, but the fire protection, every single issue that the Beauchene Homeowners Association or someone who would speak on their behalf would tell me, the fire protection. I actually had the fire, and I don't want to call him the fire chief, I don't want to call him the wrong name. He reached out to me. He said, I read something in the paper. This is crazy. He said, can you send me the plat? I said, sure, here it is. He wrote me back, and I brought the email tonight in case they tried that argument again. It says, it has absolutely no effect on our response time. They tried the insurance. Oh, we might lose our insurance. We have an email from the insurance company. Absolutely no impact on the insurance. I am still mystified at why there would be opposition to an improvement as to what could be and what is there. But at any rate, at this point, I want to reserve my time. No, really, please. I don't think I have much else to say. The environmental assessment data form on the asbestos, that's really interesting. You would only know that if you trespassed on the property and tried to take a sample and where are those results, et cetera. The 500 signatures, the last thing I want to mention, one is a door-to-door petition with 100. They went door-to-door to every single home, 15 and 20 homes. Okay, so it's a door-to-door petition that they only went for 179 signatures. Okay, but they got 179 signatures on a door-to-door petition. We also don't have any verification, but I would just wanted to point that out, that there is, my understanding, 179 solid signatures out of 1,520 homes. Thank you, and I would like, do you have anything to add? No, excuse me, to clarify that, they put an online petition that anyone can sign and vote numerous times. I did not, thank you.
When you have the mic, she has, it's your turn to speak, or your side is okay to speak, but when someone else is speaking, please quit harassing them or try to harass them. Thank you.
Thank you. I tried to be respectful during their presentation. At any rate, it's my understanding, based on what I could see of the online petition, that there's no objective criteria. You could vote as many times, and it could be, you did not have to be a resident, et cetera. That's the only thing I wanted to mention. Did you have anything else to add?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to introduce myself. I'm Alan Oxford. I'm one of the developers. I've lived in Beauchene for 7 years. I was on the board of directors for Tchefuncte Oaks for 4 years and president for 2 years up until this year. And the gentleman that got up and spoke for Tchefuncte Oaks did not take a poll of the owners of Tchefuncte Oaks. Many are my friends and they support this petition. Only 3 people on the board voted against it. So I just want to clarify that. We believe that this project is very well planned and thought out. It's an improvement to what's there. The one thing that was not brought up is there are 60 trailer, RV, storage unit spaces there in a 600 feet length. And I can show you an aerial view. It's not very pretty. The marina's beautiful, but over here they park trailers, abandoned cars, RVs, whatever, and they come and go. But more importantly, they don't have to be members of Beauchene. These 60 units are rented to outside people who we do not know who they are. They don't pay dues to Beauchene. They can come and go 24 hours a day to their storage units, to their trailers, to their boats, RVs, live in their RVs. We don't know what they do. And it's amazing to me that the people in the boathouse condos, you know, support that type of activity when it could be 18 homeowners who pay dues, would be good neighbors, would have beautiful lawns and landscaping, and the price of these new townhomes would be higher and would bring the values of all the property up in the area. The traffic, I live right there on the other side of the marina. I walk my dog over there every day. You see a car about every 15 or 20 minutes in the morning during traffic hour. Same thing in the afternoon. Sometimes you don't see a car for an hour. There's literally no traffic. It looks like an abandoned street. So the addition of these 27 homes is not going to create much traffic. So I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you for your time.
You have 1 minute and 5 seconds left, and it doesn't carry over.
You had read 3 names, and so I was trying to be polite and reserve a minute for, we don't know that third person. Okay, unless you have any other questions, I think we're concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roan, you got 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Stavancic. Again, I mentioned to you that this would be characterized as a down zone, and we respectfully reject that characterization. I do not believe, maybe my clients and the residents of Beauchene don't know what's in their best interest, but they believe strongly that this project would be more detrimental than the zoning that is in place now. There is no commercial there. There is a community-based district that does allow some of the uses that were just mentioned. However, we're asking you to keep the zoning. We're asking you to keep the zoning that is in place. The residents of Beauchene, over 580 of which signed the petition, and I'll talk about that in a moment, not to mention the other associations within Beauchene, are asking you to reject the request and keep the zoning. Quite simply. With regards to who the developer is, all we know at this point, we have met Mr. Oxford. We were told, the literature said that Tchefuncte Bluffs LLC was the developer. To the best of our knowledge, there is no such entity. Perhaps there's an intent to form that entity if this in fact passes, but as we sit here today, the Secretary of State does not have Tchefuncte Bluffs LLC registered, to the best of our knowledge. With regards to the fire district, all we can tell you is that Chief Moore did approach the Board of Directors about this issue and about the response time in the outer edges of the district. He confirmed as recently as this week that this property in question tonight is outside of that response time, and that is a problem. In addition, he told Ms. Donovan that at no time has he talked to the developer about this project. So that is a legitimate concern of the Board of Directors, who have a fiduciary obligation to their members to be concerned about these things. And we believe that's a legitimate issue. With regards to the petition, Ms. Donovan herself, the CAO of the association, compiled those names, cross-referenced the names as well, and the petitioner is correct. There were some duplicates, 12. Of 580, there were 12 duplicates. The rest were all different names and individuals of Beauchene subdivision. So to suggest that there is any equality between where those that are against and those that are for is simply not the case. There is overwhelming opposition to the project. If there was not overwhelming opposition to the project, we would not be here this evening. So we believe very strongly that the existing zoning should stay. We believe very strongly that the proposal is inappropriate in this location, and we would respectfully ask that you overturn the Zoning Commission approval and deny this request this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really don't have much to say. I don't repeat myself. So you heard what we had to say. We know that this project will improve the neighborhood. From a credibility perspective, I'd like to circulate the email from the fire prevention officer for St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District Number 4, who clearly telephoned me and said, "We are the ones that are responsible for this district. No one has contacted us." He was not happy that it was put in some newspaper or blog or whatever, that their response time would be impacted. So he asked me for the information. I sent it to him. When I didn't hear back on May 22nd, I wrote, "Hi, Jason, just checking in on whether you had a chance to review the documents I sent you and had any opinion thoughts." Within 2 hours, he wrote back, "Hey, Julie, we did look at the area of the project as well as the plot plan you sent. As discussed, the development is not going to make any difference either way from our standpoint. The response time will be the same as it is now. Thanks for your help. Jason Kaufman, Fire Prevention Officer, PIO." I do not know who Mr. Kaufman is. I am only telling you that he reached out to me and asked me. So if you would like to take a look at this, and then I also have the same with the insurance. Confirming our conversation, the addition of any number of units within the Beauchene Homeowners Association would not have any effect whatsoever on property rates. I could go on and on. We are asking for 18 first-class townhomes and 9 single-family homes on the river. I think it's a little, I want to be careful with my words, to believe that this property will remain and, quote, status quo and never be developed seems naive. If that's the case, Beauchene itself would have never been developed. I lived in this parish when Gauze Boulevard was a dirt road. Progress happens. It is time. Those lots on the river are going to be developed, and the 2 parcels CB2 are going to be developed. What we are asking is, let's do it in a thoughtful, consistent manner with first-class 18 townhomes with a pool. Did you want to say something?
One last thing about the online petition. I went online and started a petition of my own just to see how that worked. It turns out that the smallest group or area that you can do is United States, and that anybody can go on and vote, but they don't have to identify themselves or where they live. Multiple people in a household can vote. One family could vote as many times, kind of like American Idol. And so we don't believe that's a credible petition. The one they went door to door on, I believe, 175 out of 1,520 houses, where they may have had husband and wives sign that 175, probably 2,500 adults live in the neighborhood. So 175 signatures is not overwhelming. So thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes the presentation by both sides, so I'll begin by asking council members if they want to speak. And Mr. Lorino, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. First of all, I want to say a couple of things about the whole process. And, well, actually, before that, Ms. Quinn, it's very nice to see you again. I haven't seen you since we were in the State Senate, and actually, I'm a little bit surprised that I haven't seen you over here negotiating this process, because that's the way we handle this over here. But I just wanted to say hello anyway. Mr. Chairman and members, the petition first. I have 185 emails. So I know how many people are not in support of this project. And to this day, sitting here right now, at this minute, I have not one email in support of the project. Now, that's not a reason to turn down or approve a project. We all know that. The issue is, what about the project? First of all, Beauchene is about 1,235 some odd acres, and it's fully developed. And there's 10.5 acres left. Normally, what'll happen is everybody in St. Tammany Parish, and we deal with it all the time, each and every one of us up here, wants to develop every single sliver of land. That's just the way it is. And we deal with it. But because you have a piece of land, it does not mean it has to be developed. Does not have to be developed, especially if it causes what I consider a massive intrusion on the people that are there today. And we could look at the whole Beauchene area and say, how does it affect someone on the other side? But let's look at the area. There's about 9 or 10 condominiums there that were built a long time ago. And they're very old condominiums. But that's people's houses. That's where they live. That's theirs. That's their pride and joy. And when I went and looked at this project and discovered it and looked at it every which way, it's going to make a drastic change on those individuals. Now, is that a reason to turn it down? Probably not, but it is a reason to consider and try to work on. But the word here was work on. Someone earlier, it looks like it's my day on the spotlight here, but someone earlier mentioned I've only been here 2 years. Well, that's correct. I've only been here 2 years. But every time I come to this lovely council chamber, we have an appeal. And when we have an appeal, I watch the councilmen that have handled this for many years. They have meetings. They sit in a room and try to talk and try to figure this thing out. I offered that. I have not heard from Ms. Quinn one time other than I sent her an email when I was going out of the country, and I said I will be happy to meet with you. I have not heard from Mr. Oxford since we sat in the back at the last council meeting. So I presume, and this is just my presumption, and Ms. Quinn alluded to it, that because it was put at the planning and zoning and passed unanimously or by one vote or whatever the case may be, I don't have to do anything. The people in the subdivision have absolutely no say. Well, we all know that's not correct. We approve and disapprove every time we come up here. So that was really a surprise to me. So what I have done is I've looked at this project. I've looked at it every way. So let's talk about it. The first thing it's going to do is what I said. It's going to change the lives of those people. And they're going to be walking out of their door and looking at another big complex right across the street. And by the way, the road is one way in and one way out. One way in, one way out. And I tried to pass a car on there the other day just for the heck of it, and we couldn't do it. So now let's bring in all the trucks and go ahead and the cement and all of that. But let's talk about the rest of them. That area floods. There's absolutely no, the last rain we have, I have pictures here where the water came up and filled up in the back of this area. And it was rain. 5 feet of water or more in Katrina. Isaac. It floods. So now we're going to build those, I'm assuming those condominiums right there. I've never seen the plans, even though I've asked for them a few times, but nevertheless, I'm assuming we're going to build those, and it's going to flood. And somebody's going to pay $500,000 to flood? I find that hard to believe, but it's possible because they want to live in St. Tammany Parish. But so now let's look at when it does flood, if we build it. When it floods today, those other marina homes have to take their cars and park them in the street of the Boshin Marina section that is not on the water. Today that happens, right now. So now we're going to intrude with another 60 or 80 cars. Is that fair? For a little small sliver? No. Let's look at the roads. Boshin community is a community that is developed and maintained by themselves, and it's done and handled perfectly. And this will affect that with trucks, with cement trucks, with people going in and out. And it's a gated community. So now it comes to, how do you weigh this situation? When I looked at it, and I thought about it again last night, and I thought about it again this afternoon, there is no way that I can ask Boshin to tax their sewer, their drainage, their parking, their traffic, their everything for this area that's there. Mr. Oxford and Ms. Quinn is absolutely correct. It is zoned to do certain things. But I'll tell you what, and I may be wrong. I may be sitting here, if I'm lucky enough, for another term or 4 years, and someone might want to come put a bar there. Well, I'm going to tell you what. If that person wants to put a bar there, he's not going to last very long because nobody's going to go down that one-way road and try to do anything. A church, a school, that's not going to happen. I know it's zoned that way, but it's not going to happen. So, Mr. Chairman, I've looked at this project. I would like to make a motion to override the Planning and Zoning Commission and deny it.
Motion by Mr. Lorino, seconded by Mr. Belisario. You didn't push your button early enough. Any discussion on the motion to override? Yeah, and then we're taking these separately, by the way. There's two different things here. We're taking the first one first. So any on the motion to override? Seeing none, please vote. Oh, wait a minute. I do have, I'm sorry. Mr. Toledano, did you wish to say anything?
No. I was trying to second it, but
Okay.
get you to start turning to the right.
Mr. Smith, did you want to say anything? Yes, I did. You got time? Oh,
Testing.
I didn't really want you to talk. That's the reason.
What's new? I did have a question for Sydney, if you don't mind. Mr. Chairman, Sydney, if you could, I was reading the staff comments on this request, and the downzoning position that is being requested here, A6, I think it is, down to A4. Can you kind of give me some hard numbers, as best you can, on what the potential impact as far as the number of people that would be potentially able to congregate or live in the A6 versus what we have in the proposed A4 zoning request? Did you understand my
I hope
question?
you're on.
Oh, the mic's on, okay. I was waiting for a light to come on.
Okay.
It would be extremely difficult to do. As was mentioned in the conversation, the vast majority of the A6 is wetlands. And so you'd have to go through the mitigation process, determine what would be mitigated, the value of that mitigation, and that would determine as to what the cost of development would be. I don't think the numbers presented as far as if it is all developable land, that the numbers that have been presented are inaccurate, but actually give a real number of what I think could be developed at. It really boils down to a business decision and how much are you willing to pay to mitigate that 10 acres of wetlands and the quality of that wetlands.
And one other follow-up question. I noticed also in your comments that you said that a zoning change to a PUD development overlay has been submitted for the same site. So we do have another application that's being.
That is the second case. You've
Okay.
essentially heard two cases. That is the second case.
Sydney,
And what
thank you.
that would do is actually take that wetland area, and the vast majority of it would be designated permanent green space, as opposed to now where you always have that chance that if somebody has a big enough checkbook, there'd be a possibility, they could mitigate it. They could probably get through the core, but it would be a significant challenge. It is a significant wetland on the edge of the river.
Thank
you. Anything else? Well, seeing nobody else in line to talk, we have the motion on the floor to override the zoning approval. Please vote.
Please, some patience. I have one vote still pending.
Somebody hasn't voted.
Thank you. Okay.
Somebody show Canulet how to do it. Gotta put your finger on there, Chris.
Motion passed, 14 yeas, no one absent.
Okay, and now we need the voter on a resolution.
We need a
by
motion.
Mr. Lorino, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. One left.
It's Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
Somebody hasn't voted?
Got it. Motion passed, 14 yeas, no one absent.
Thank you, that's enough. We are on the second part of that now, and that's to, one of these is PUD, one of them's the other part of it, so this is the second one of those. Need a motion on the floor to either concur or not to concur with zoning approval? Are you
On-
paying attention?
On the third, on appeal number 3, we have to vote separately, so you need to make a motion
Vote separately? You need a motion to vote separately?
to override or concur.
Motion by Mr. Lorino to override, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Please vote. I'm going to clear that. Okay.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Need to adopt a resolution, a motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Please vote.
Resolution. Have one vote left. Motion is unanimous. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, Jason Van Halen appealing zoning commission's denial on June 6, 2017 for a major amendment to 53.5 acre PUD. Please leave, if you're going to leave, please leave quietly. Jason, I'm gonna give him a minute to leave.
Okay.
Want to take a resolution, or you want to take a recess? You gonna vote? Yeah, thank you. Okay, Jason, I've read the thing. It's up to you. You have your time to speak.
Yes, sir. As of the last denial, we were asking to put a pool house in Hidden Creek subdivision within the 100-foot buffer. Since then, we have made some changes to our plan. We removed everything from the 100-foot no-cut buffer. We've also agreed to replant the buffer once the pool house is constructed and construct a wooden fence sort of as a safety to keep people from migrating from the parking lot to the highway, kids, pets, whatever. That's really all I have.
Okay. Anybody on the other side? Seeing none, Mr. Toledano?
I already hit it.
How you do?
Pardon me, but I thought this was the case on 6th Street. This particular case I am not familiar with,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Tavanti. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The answer to the question, so everybody's clear, Mr. Van Halen has another zoning case pending, and it was my belief that that was it. So, excuse me.
August 3rd.
Yeah.
All right.
Gotcha.
There's no one on the other side to speak,
I
so
read it
Mr.
too.
Toledano.
What's that?
There was no one speaking on the
Yeah,
other
no,
side.
no. I have no interest in this case, but it appeared to be a different case.
I'm sorry.
If that's not clear to anybody, I can't help it.
Okay.
Can't help it.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Steve.
He punched his butt in the head.
In the last couple of weeks, we've had numerous meetings with Jason and the folks that were opposed to this. What had happened, they were within the 100-foot buffer on Highway 1085. They've agreed to pull everything out of the buffer, replant the buffer, Jason, move the pool back. Everything's worked out. We don't have anybody opposed to that idea now. I just want to ask Sydney one question, if I can.
Go ahead.
Do I have permission?
I said go ahead.
Oh, you did? Oh. Since this is a new plan, do I need to refer this back to the zoning commission or not? Oh, I can.
Commission has its one hearing and makes a recommendation to the council's free to take whatever action they deem appropriate.
Okay. All right. I moved to override and approve the new plan.
Motion by Mr. Thompson to override and approve the plan, seconded by Mr. Dean. Any discussion? Please vote. One person hadn't voted. Thank you.
Motion passes, one absent.
Okay. We also need a,
I can't do it.
we also need a introduction of an ordinance. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion on the motion? Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, it is motion introduction. Thank you. That concludes that item. Let's go to the next one. Robert Bruno appealing the Planning Commission denial on June 13, 2015 to create a minor subdivision of tracks A1, A2, and E located west of Highway 1077, south of I-12, west of Covington by creating tracks A1A, A1B, A1C, A2A, and E1, Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Bruno, remember you have 10 minutes to give your side and list. Mr. Dean?
Mr. Chairman, before he goes into his discussion, may I ask if there's any opposition, or would you ask, please?
Is there any opposition in the room to this case? No, sir, there is not.
Okay, unless you want to, I mean, you look nice
Nope,
and you.
I don't want to
you
have him
a
talk
great-
if we don't have to.
I am a lawyer, but I'm not getting paid as a lawyer, so I'm not going to
Should we
bore
give
you
him
with
5
hearing
minutes
myself
just to
speak.
talk?
Make sure you don't bill your client either. Okay.
My father told me, when the
Okay.
judge rules, leave.
No, you
So in
can't.
that case,
Right off.
Mr. Stefanski,
Yes, Mr. Dean?
in that case, I'd like to move to override the planning's denial, please.
And seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion on the motion to override? Seeing none, please vote.
Do I still have someone marked absent? Mr. Bender, what is your vote, please?
They postponed one.
You can just tell me verbally. I'm still learning the system so that we can get everything right. No, I had all of them. How are they?
We have one more
Okay, somebody
vote.
still hasn't voted now.
Oh, that was me.
Oh,
Okay.
uh-oh. Motion is unanimous. No one absent.
Thank you. And now we need adoption of a resolution. Motion by Mr. Lorino, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote early and vote often.
Still
Two more
need two
votes.
votes.
Two more votes, somebody?
One more.
One more vote. Needs to be blinking.
Motion passes, 14 yeas, no one absent.
Thank you. Mr. Lorino? Wait a minute. Got to get the right person.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make sure my vote reflects that I did vote for both of them. Okay.
Yes, sir, I
All
had
right.
you down.
Now, secondly, I have one question. Where did you get those glasses?
Actually, they are one of my tenants in Laplace, believe it or not, which is quite forward thinking these days because they're from Spain.
Okay.
So
You don't have to go
I am
too much
accepting
detail.
commissions if you're interested.
Thank you, sir.
But I do want to tell you all, thank you so much. Your service means a lot to us. And I'm not going to drone on or anything, but I just want to let you all know the Bruno family is going to continue to make you all proud of all of our developments. You don't see me here very often because when Red talks, Bruno listens. When Marty talks, Bruno listens. I'm not in many other districts. So anyway, thank you all very much. And we're going to continue to work hard for this beautiful parish that we live in. Thank you all very much tonight.
Thank you. All right, we're going to the ordinances for adoption. And so that all the council understands, we're going to look and see whose button hits first and who's hits second. And that'll be the one that makes the motion, and the second one will be the one who seconds it. So we begin ordinance calendar number 5824, amending the official parish zoning map to classify parcel land from NC4 to HC2, Ward 9, District 11.
Hit the button.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Ms. Blanchard. Any discussion? Please vote.
10 minutes to 8.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5825, amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 4.64 acres from A2 and ED1 to A2 and 1 acre portion to MHO Ward 6, District 11.
Mr. Belisario, it's 11, right?
Mr. Tanner has made the motion. I'm 11.
Oh, you're 11,
Okay, Mr. Tanner made the motion, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Please vote.
Hold on. I still have one pending.
Somebody's light ain't blinking.
No, we've done 1 and 2. That's what we're voting on right now. I'll explain it afterwards. Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5826, ordinance to authorize the parish president to purchase or otherwise acquire certain servitudes and/or right-of-ways for the benefit of the Tenant Pond Project, Ward 8, District 8. Ward 8, District 8.
I had,
Okay.
wait. Mr. Lorino was still in there from the last
I'm going to let
time.
him make the motion, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Please vote.
Dean's back now. I can't. Wait, I can change it.
3 people haven't voted.
If it is flashing, then you voted. If it is not flashing, you need to vote. Thank you. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5827, amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.576 acres from A4 to NC1, Ward 9, District 11. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Canulette. Any discussion?
Because you're not listening.
Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5828, amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.14 acres from A4 to A4A and MHO Ward 8, District 14. Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Bender. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. One left.
I need one more vote. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5829, ordinance to amend the 2017 operating budget amendment number 7. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Ms. Blanchard. Any discussion? Please vote.
Need one more vote. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
No, I'm going to postpone it. Okay, you need to postpone that. Okay, under appointments, resolution to appoint one member to replace Earl Graves, resigned to the Board of Directors for Parish Recreation District Number 7. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Okay. Now you can appoint. Motion by nomination by Mr. Tanner to appoint Eric Davis. Do I hear a second? Second by Thompson. Any discussion? We're going to close them anyhow. Motion to appoint Eric Davis to replace Earl Graves, resigned to the Board of Directors, Parish Recreation District Number 7. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
The next one is a motion or resolution to appoint, reappoint 6 members to the Library Board of Control, parish-wide. Oh, I missed one. Resolution to appoint Richard Tanner. I knew that, did that intentionally. To fill the vacant council position on Communications District Number 1. Motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Toledano.
I'm wondering if we have a resume submitted by Mr. Tanner yet.
Yeah, but I didn't pass it out to anybody. Okay, any discussion? Please vote. Hmm?
When you ask if there's discussion, kind of look around a little bit, on the right, on the left.
I'm reading off of the screen,
You
okay?
have to hit your button.
You want me to tell you where you were in the queue? No, you weren't. I read off the 2 people that were top, okay? And it makes it so I don't have to look around. You would like to speak?
It's too late, I've already.
Okay.
I
Just a
need
second. Just
2
a-
votes, please.
2 votes. Anybody got 2 votes?
No, I got it. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Luckily, you just barely made it, Richard. Okay.
Mr. Dean wants to speak.
Resolution to appoint or, huh? Who wants it? Mr. Dean wants to
Yes.
speak?
And then Bender wants to speak. Just give him the floor. And you have Bender behind him.
All right, Mr. Dean?
Thank you. Michelle, will you take over? No, I'm teasing. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and appoint Mr. Tanner immediately, please.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dean, seconded by Mr. Bender. Any discussion?
No.
The motion is to appoint him immediately. This was a parish-wide appointment. Any discussion? Please vote. It's going to be a good one to get over tonight. Please vote.
Hold on, you're.
See, I'm not the only one that's having problems with it.
Gentlemen, please have patience.
I don't think they even know what they're moving. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
There were people that want to speak, I think. Mr. Bender
It gets
and Mr.
clear.
Smith wanted to speak.
Mr. Bender, did you want to speak, Mr. Bender? No, thank you.
Yeah, you know what, Mr. Chairman, I really do want to speak, but it's probably going to have to be after the meeting. Because the topic is a little bit, you know.
I'll second that.
No, I put my mic on maybe too soon. It's to make the motion to reappoint the 6 members to the Library Board of Control. I
Okay.
was just early.
Okay, Mr. Bender, since you're there, I'll recognize you this is a resolution to reappoint 6 members to the Library Board of Control. It's parish-wide. Dr. Arjuro Morgan, Antoinette McLean, Rebecca Taylor, John DeJean, Mary Renew, have requested appointment, and Ann Shaw has requested appointment to replace Sylvia Mahler, who resigned. Motion by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Belisario. I had a call, just so you know, I had a call yesterday from Marjorie Morgan. She is wanting to get off of this board. She will remain until we replace her. So that one, I would ask that it lay over a month. The rest of them, we will need then a motion to make it adopted.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to adopt tonight.
Thank you.
Other than, of course, we let Ms. Morgan continue to serve because we don't have a replacement at this point.
That is correct. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Belisario, you second that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Blanchard, you have anything to say? Mr. Smith? Oh, got to give him control.
Oh. Yes, sir. This, Ms. Ann Shaw requested appointment to replace Sylvia Muller, who resigned. I know we didn't deal with that on this first motion, but is it our intention that we are going to wait for some information to come in on this person, or does someone have any information to provide to us in reference to Ms. Ann Shaw that we can consider?
Don, you better wake up.
No, you couldn't have.
Yeah. Can you turn his mic on?
Oh, got to turn him on. There we go.
Yeah. No, that
There you are,
information was emailed to all council members within the last month.
My email is tjsmith@stpgo.
I sent it to TJ Smith at STP and Aloe Very.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, that's about the third time this month you. But anyhow, I would just say this. I've worked with Ann on the Library Foundation Board, who, you know, they are raising money to help the library and did a lot of good things for the library system. So appreciate her being put on there. So the motion is by Mr. Bender to suspend the rules and adopt, with the potential that Arjero Morgan may be replaced in the future. Okay.
And to serve.
You have something else to say, Jerry?
Excuse me, sir?
I missed your
No,
name.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and adopt. Obviously, Dr. Morgan will just continue to serve until we find an appropriate replacement.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Please vote for suspending the rules and adopting.
I'll tell you what, man.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
And the next is a resolution to replace the board members of Lakeshore Village Master Community Development District. That needs to be postponed until we get the information. Okay, Ms. Blanchard? Oh, got to get your mic on. Ms.
Mr.
Blanchard?
Chairman, I make a motion to postpone this resolution.
Motion by Ms. Blanchard, seconded by, we'll look at Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
I need one more vote. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. That completes the agenda. Is there any items to come off the floor? Miss? Anyone have any items over here to come off the floor? Nope. Anyone over here? Nope. Anybody from staff? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned.
Computer guy would like 5 minutes to talk.